Well, in big news coming from the Supreme Court has struck down SBI's plea seeking an extension of the deadline to submit details of the electoral bonds. And joining me now is ADR's Jagdeep Chhokar, who is one of the petitioners, asking Supreme Court to instruct SBI. In fact, he'd filed a contempt of court against the SBI. We'll get more details from him directly. Sir, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, and many congratulations once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So if you could just explain what the Supreme Court said to our viewers, because the SC did say that you don't have to match the details, which is what the SBI had said, that they need more time to do. So what does this really mean?
See, the Supreme Court originally had not asked SBI to match. Supreme Court had said that you give information about who has purchased each bond and how much amount and on what date. And that they should give details of who has redeemed that bond for how much amount and on what date. Now, the State Bank of India decided to produce this or introduce this red herring of matching, which they thought will, they might hoodwink the Supreme Court into giving them 3 months' time. For whatever reason, they thought 3-4 months was a good idea to ask for. But Supreme Court had not asked them to do that. They say the information is available in 2 silos. A lot of people have been saying in the last 3-4 days that let them release the information in 2 silos. We will marry the 2 silos. But they were not wanting to disclose the information. I had also written about it, that the reasons given by the Supreme Court were rather amateurish. And for them to expect that the Supreme Court will be fooled by these reasons was, not very bright, I should say. And therefore, as expected, the Supreme Court saw through the shallowness of those reasons. And Supreme Court actually seems to have come down very heavily, because they have said that you give this information by the end of business tomorrow. And they have also gone on record that we would like to put the State Bank of India on notice that if they do not do it by tomorrow, they might be charged with contempt of court. The court has actually said this, which is very significant. And they put it up tomorrow. And then the court has asked the Election Commission of India to put it on their website by the 15th, which is just 3 days after that. So I think the Supreme Court's order is very good. It actually carries the spirit of the judgment of the Supreme Court on February 15. The State Bank of India had tried to sort of undermine or delay the implementation of the judgment. And as I had written in some piece that I wrote, that delay is the deadliest form of denial. So the Supreme Court saw that, and they said no delay will be accepted and you better do it by tomorrow. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court lawyer said that we will be able to give this information in 2 silos in 3 weeks.
Right.
But the Supreme Court said, no, you give it by tomorrow, which is absolutely fair. I think it is a very fair judgment, and it upholds the rule of law, and that is why it is useful.
Right. In an earlier conversation I had with Mr. Subhashkar, he was the Economic Affairs Secretary at the time the scheme was used. He also said that the details that the Supreme Court asked for, those are 6 key details, are readily available. And figuratively, he said it takes about 10 minutes to put it together. Your petition also echoes a similar sentiment, that it takes a few hours at best. So do you think that the SBI has the details, they're sitting on it, but they did not deliberately give it as was expected of them?
Of course they have it. There is no question. The scheme requires them to have it. And they have given affidavits during the course of the hearings on the case that they have it. They cannot go back and deny all that. That is why their application has not been accepted.
Right. There's another factor here that, the matching that they were seeking time for. Mr. Garg had said that it's not possible even in 3 months, in 3.5 months extension they'd asked for, because that's a very lengthy process. Now, what can we establish from the information that we will get, hopefully, from SBI over the next few days? Just for the layman's understanding, can we at the end of tomorrow understand, or when the ECI puts it up on the website on 15th of March, know which donor gave how much money to which party? Will that information now finally be made public?
Yes, the answer to your question is yes, it will be made public, even if it is not directly revealed in the information that the SBI gives to ECI and ECI puts it up on its website. It will be made available to the public by a whole lot of people who analyze this kind of information, who are IT savvy. As a matter of fact, several people have written in the last 3-4 days that the State Bank should give us information of both silos and we will marry them together. So that can be done. This, I respectfully disagree with Mr. Garg that it cannot be done in 3 months and 6 months, and maybe it can never be done. It will be done in, at the most, couple of days. I can assure you that.
Right. Now, I want to ask you about the motives of SBI, because as an institution, they ideally shouldn't have any reasons to deliberately delay if they have the information. Again, going back to Mr. Garg, he said that probably they were doing this at the behest of the union government. Do you share that sentiment? Do you think this was a tactic to make this information public till after elections at least?
I have no information on SBI's motives, and I will not speculate what those motives were. Mr. Garg, having been in the government, may know what the government may have wanted and what motivated the SBI. I will not come. I have no information on the motives.
Another, if I could ask you a hypothetical question, but this information that hopefully will be made public on 15th of March now, what does it mean, for the public to know how the donations came to political parties over the last few years? What does that actually mean?
Well, it means that either on the 15th of March or very soon thereafter, the public at large will know which company or which business house or which individual gave how much money to which political party on which date. This will be available to the public. Now it will be for the public to decide whether those donations were linked with some action that the government took to assist or to help that company or that individual. That public will have to decide for their own, but public will have access to this information as to who has given how much money to which political party and when.
So there's another argument, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, that, the companies, when they donated this money, they had done so, because there was a law of the land which said that you will be given complete anonymity when you donate. So, there is one sentiment that the companies might feel betrayed now that they were ensured their anonymity, and now it will all be out in the public. What do you have to say about that?
Well, any company or any individual who feels betrayed, they have the option to go to the Supreme Court.
No one's done that yet.
Well, I'm not aware of anyone having done that.
Right.
So sentiments are all right. There are all kinds of sentiments. But if there is anybody who is genuinely feel aggrieved, the option of the judicial action exists. Let them go to the court and say this judgment violates my fundamental right to privacy.
Right.
And we will see what the judgment says.
And the other fear is that, companies that have perhaps donated to opposition parties might now face the wrath of the government. Is that also something that we could see happening?
No, I don't know what will happen. But anybody who has given money to any political party, that information will be known. Now, how that information is used by whom is an open issue. The opposition political parties will have access to information what the party in power has got. And party in power will have the information what the opposition parties have got. So it will be an open field. It will not be that one party has all the information and the others do not. So that uneven playing field, which the Supreme Court in their order had very clearly commented upon, unambiguously, so the playing field will now be level.
There's
Each
another
party
thing
and they need to do what they want.
By joining the dots, perhaps now we can also understand if there was any quid pro quo, companies giving a donation at a certain date, at a certain time, to a certain party that is in power and getting certain benefits out of it in terms of policy, contracts, and all of that. That also is something that will be known after the publishing of the data, right?
Please join the dots. I will encourage you to do that, and I'll encourage everybody to do that, to join the dots and see what was the reason behind it.
Right. So one last question before I let you go now. What does this mean in terms of making the political funding in India transparent? This is definitely a step. What is next? What can be done to make sure that there's more transparency?
There are some other rules and laws where, donations in cash less than 2,000 rupees need not be disclosed. Their source need not be disclosed. That should also be done away with. All donations to political parties should be transparently done. That is what is required. And political parties have to be financially transparent in the sense, how do they get the money, where do they get the money, when do they get their money, whom they get it from, and how do they spend their money, how much do they spend, when do they spend. These things should be in the public domain. Political parties they say they work in the public sphere, they work for public good. जनता की सेवा करते हैं, तो वो जो उनके लाभार्थी हैं उनकी सेवा के, they should at least be willing to tell them that for doing service to the public, where do they get the money from?
Right. We'll see if the data does come, and we'll keep a close track of it. I thank you for joining us. A fantastic judgment.
I assure you the data will come. Please do not say we will see. If the data comes, the data will come.
When the data comes. Right.
Well, data will come on the 15th of March.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
You are welcome.